Now let's look at a problem with a larger data set, and this part is not covered in your textbook. I want to illustrate a couple of new things with the library Carrot, and let's use Boston housing as the data set. Okay, so we'll call that BHDF, and let's go ahead and read CSV. Boston housing dot CSV. Run that. So there we have read the dataset in. Now let's look at the dataset. See here, we have medv and catmedv as the two possible targets. Okay, so we're not going to be using medv. We can actually get rid of it. But more than that, tax is something that we cannot use because tax is not a predictor variable. It gets computed from the value of the property. So this is a value, the values of tax are derived from the target, and therefore we will get rid of that. All right. So let's do that first. So BHDF equal to BHDF. Okay, all the rows. Okay, and we don't want the 10th column. Okay, tax is 10th column. So there are 14 variables right now, and we'll run this, and we will have only 13. Okay, so we have only 13 variables. Okay, the next step is to partition the data set. So we'll start with set seed, and we'll use set seed 111 and TRIND. So we're going to use the create partition procedure, and then BHDF. So we have to specify the target here, and the target is catmedv, and then we have the probability. Okay, let's assume we want 60% training and the balance validate. Okay, and then remember here we have to specify that we want a vector and not a list. Okay, and then we'll have BHTR, okay, and that would be BHDF tr.ind rows and all columns, then bh.vl. So tr to stand for training and vl to stand for validate. So bhdf minus trind and all columns. Okay, so now we run these 3 lines of code, 4 lines of code, and we should have the train and validate set. Okay, so we have all that. Okay, now this is k nearest neighbors. Because we are using distance measures, we have to normalize the variables. So let us use let's do BH norm, Okay, and that is pre-process, right? Pre-process. Okay, what columns you want to pre-process? We have to do training is what we're going to be using. Okay, so we don't want the last two columns, right? The last column is cat medv, and that's our target. And the last but one is medv, which is also target. We are not going to be using those two columns. So pre-process all rows, but we want minus c 12 comma 13. Okay, so that's our data. Okay, now we need to specify the method, and we want to use standard normal. So method equal to C. We need centering and scaling. We talked about this previously. Center will subtract from each value the mean of the column. Okay, and scale will divide that difference by the standard deviation. Okay, then once that is done, so BH norm dot tr equal to, we do predict, and predict with what? With BH norm, where the normalization statistics are saved, and then the data BH dot tr. Okay, and then we do the same thing for BH norm dot VL. Okay, predict BH dot norm comma BH dot VL. Okay, so now we run these 3 lines of code, and then we have the data. So if you look at the train data, and you see all the columns except for the last two are normalized, and the same is the case with VL.